We started this series explaining how the workflows of the 2030 vision, together with the challenge of protecting cloud infrastructure in the face of the changing threat landscape, mean that Zero Trust is the security architecture of choice. In this, the final episode in this series, we're going to walk through a plan for implementing Zero Trust. And I've taken these steps in a presentation by John Kindervag. The first step is defining the protect surface. The protect surface is around the thing you are protecting, which is what the attackers are after. Now, this is not the same as the attack surface. Defining attack surfaces is a useful tool for risk assessment, but that doesn't have the same goals as security. In this photograph, we see the US presidential limousine making its way down a street in a US city. The security goal is to protect the president. Clearly there is a crowd, but the Secret Service isn't trying to secure the entire street, and that's a good thing because there is a large crowd with high buildings. It would be impossible to guarantee that someone wishing the president ill didn't slip through. So let's look at the uniformed officers standing along the street. Now, some of them are looking at the crowd, others looking at the president. It's cold, and they've probably been staying there all day. They're there to create the illusion of security, because while they might stop an ill-prepared individual, they're not going to prevent a serious threat. The Secret Service is focused on protecting the president, who is inside the limousine, and that vehicle is their protect surface. And if they can protect it successfully, they have fulfilled their mission, whatever else happens on the street. Their resources are focused on the protect surface. It's protected by the Secret Service agents walking alongside the limousine, those inside it, and those in the SUVs following behind, and by the limousine's armor and other defensive measures. You can see that there is a lot less inside the protect surface than there is on the street, and that's the model we need to adopt. Earlier I said that you can't be sure you've kept intruders out of your infrastructure, and this is the same thing. The Secret Service and the law enforcement officers can't be sure that there aren't any bad actors in the crowd. So the Secret Service takes measures that will protect the president even if there are. We define protect surfaces by determining what data needs to be protected, which are the applications that consume sensitive data, which assets are the most sensitive, and finally, which services can be exploited to disrupt operations. And those are the things we need to protect. The second step is to map our workflows. Now, I believe this is one place where we have an advantage over other industries, because those building the workflows are connecting to those using them. In other industries, that isn't necessarily true. An IT department knows that people use the email system to send messages, but they are not aware that the attorneys in the legal department are using their email folders to track contracts, at least until they implement a rule that archives email to another system after 90 days. Step 3 is to create policies. These are statements of which authorized entity are allowed to do what. Creating and managing policies might be automated or it might be manual. Step 4 is implementing the policy enforcement points. These are the components that sit between the untrusted and whatever is being protected, and interpret the policies to permit authorized access. Notice I said permit authorized access. I did not say deny unauthorized access. Zero Trust is denied by default. Everything should be secured so that the default state is deny, which is why I didn't need to mention it, except to tell you why I didn't. And finally, we use analytics and monitoring. These should already be part of any security system. And in Zero Trust, we are not just looking for abnormal activity, we're also seeking to identify normal activity. The academic papers Google published on Beyond Court explain how knowing whether an activity is normal can be used to infer a level of trust, meaning that the trust isn't binary. I might say that in some circumstances, I'm not going to trust you to do everything that I will trust you to do in other circumstances. If you log on from the same location that you always do, I'm going to assign a higher trust value than if you log on from somewhere you never do. Or in some cases, I might not let you log on even if you have the right credentials. Once you understand how you will implement Zero Trust, you have to decide how to deploy it. The first instinct is often to start with the most sensitive data or systems. After all, those are the things that are most important, the crown jewels. Now, unless you have deployed Zero Trust before, I strongly recommend that you don't do that. The problem with going straight to the crown jewels is that these are often the parts of the system that are used only by a few people and might not be as well understood as others. And those are the parts of the system where it's likely that if something goes wrong on the deployment, well, you can complete that sentence. The fact is that Zero Trust is new to many people, and not many people in your organization, if any, will have experience deploying it. And unless you've done it before, deploying Zero Trust has a learning curve. As you can see on this diagram from Palo Alto Networks, the place to start the deployment is learning on the Protect services that are least sensitive or critical. Once you have learned, the more critical Protect services can be addressed. These are the ones where what was learned is now practiced. And it's only once that you've done that do you reach the point where the most critical Protect services can be addressed. And once you've done that, then the rest of the Protect services can be addressed in whatever time frame you have. So the deployment process is learn, practice, deploy. Zero Trust implementation can seem to be a daunting task, but with the right approach, deployment can be easier than it initially appears. Joan Kindervat quotes her client as saying, "We spent more time arguing about Zero Trust than we did deploying the first Zero Trust environment." That wraps up our series on production security and Zero Trust. So let's quickly recap the 6 episodes. We started out by discussing why Zero Trust is the security architecture of choice for media production in today's production environments. After that, we talked about the core Zero Trust concepts of authentication and authorization. We then looked at applying Zero Trust to a workflow. In the 5th episode, we introduced the common security architecture for production, and in the last episode, we examined the path to implementation. If you have any questions or are interested in getting involved, please get in touch through our website, which is www.movielabs.com. Thank you for watching. If your company is ready to take the next step in implementing the Movie Labs 2030 vision, consider joining the growing global community of implementers who work directly with Movie Labs and its member studios in the Movie Labs Industry Forum. The forum offers you a seat at the table with key industry leaders worldwide who are committed to the 2030 vision and the future of media creation. The QR code on screen now is a link for more information. We hope you'll join us.